Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sally and this is Secret Life of a Seamstress. I hope you're all really well and you've had a good week. In today's video I'm going to be sharing my top 5 beginner jersey and knit sewing patterns. So these are all patterns that I used in my journey starting out sewing with knit and jersey fabrics, and I've made no secret of the fact that I found it quite difficult to get into sewing with knit and jersey. I'm definitely more of a viscose and cotton sewer, that's what I love to sew with, but there's no getting away from the fact that I wear jersey and knit fabrics a lot. So I always wanted to kind of get my head around sewing with jersey and knit fabrics, and I'm pleased to say that in the last year I've practiced a lot and I feel much more confident in sewing with knit and jersey fabrics. So I thought I would just share with you 5 of my top jersey and knit sewing patterns, so that if you're starting out on your knit and jersey sewing journey it might be helpful to you too, and I'll just share a couple of tips and things that I learned about these patterns along the way too. If you are new to my channel is all about sewing and knitting and crafting, so if you are into those things too, I'd love you to consider subscribing, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. So the first jersey pattern that I ever tried was the Mollie pattern by Sew Over It, and the Mollie pattern can be made as a top or a dress version, and it's from the Sew Over It Capsule Wardrobe ebook, the City Break ebook, and I'll just pop a picture in here of the ebook cover just so that you can see what it looks like. So when Sew Over It released the Mollie top pattern, I just thought that I had to have it. It's a kind of top that I would wear every day. I love to wear stripy tops like this and jersey tops, and I love jersey dresses that I can wear with tights and leggings. I'm actually wearing one of my Mollie tops this morning so that you can see what it looks like on. But the first version I actually made of this pattern was a stripy dress version, and I'll put in a picture of me wearing it so you can see what it looks like on. But yeah, I absolutely love this pattern. You can see from the top that I'm wearing that it has a grown-on sleeve here, so you could make this top or dress as a short sleeve version, and it's all kind of grown on in one piece, so there are no sleeves to sew in or anything. It's all sewn under the arm down to the waist in one piece. If you want to make the long sleeve version, then you simply add on the longer part of the sleeve on the flat. You attach it onto the short sleeve part of the grown on section of the front and back of the top, so it really is quite easy to sew. I did have a few issues with the neckband in my first few attempts, simply because I was new to putting neckbands in. In the description of this video below I'll pop in a couple of tutorials that I found really helpful in learning how to set in neckbands properly. I now always use the quartering method, and Tilly and the Buttons and Lauren from Guthrie Garney both have brilliant tutorials on how to put in neckbands, so I'll link to those videos down below in the description. My top tip with this pattern though would be that if, like me, you find that on Sew Over It patterns the arms come up quite small, you can probably see here with this top that I'm wearing that the arms are quite tight. So I think next time I make this top I'm going to size up a little bit just to give me a little bit more room under the arms. Or of course you could just simply reduce your seam allowance. So I've taken the full seam allowance when I've sewn this top, which is 1.5 centimetres I think. So if you were just making this top on the overlocker, say, you wouldn't necessarily need to take a seam allowance, and that would give you a little bit more room to manoeuvre around the arm area. But yeah, I highly recommend the Mollie top as a good beginner jersey pattern if you're learning to sew with jersey and knit fabrics. The second on my list of beginner jersey sewing patterns is the Coco Dress and Top pattern by Tilly and the Buttons, and I absolutely love this pattern. It really is super quick and easy, and I think the best thing about it, if you're a beginner like I was when I first tried this top, the best thing about it is that there is no neckbands put in. So you can see from the image here that it's just a kind of slash neck top, and the top is simply finished around the neck edge and then it's turned under, so then you can finish it in your preferred method. You can use a twin needle or you can just top stitch or zigzag around the neckline area, and you don't need to worry about getting a neckband in like you do with this one and getting it to lay flat. So it really is a super simple make, and the sleeves are attached on the flat again and then just simply sewn under the arm and then down to the waist. So I've made 2 versions of this pattern now, and I've made them both as dresses, and I've not yet made the top version, and I don't know why. That's definitely got to go on my list for summer. But yeah, this is a really brilliant beginner sewing pattern. And the really good thing about it is as well is that you can use a cotton jersey, but you can also use a Ponte Roma or a French terry or something that's just got that little bit more stability to it. So much easier to work with than a drapey, say viscose or cotton jersey if you don't want to use a cotton jersey. But yeah, this is a really brilliant beginner sewing pattern too. So third on my list, and something that I sewed quite early on into my journey sewing with knits, is the Megan Nielsen Jarrah Sweatshirt. This is the pattern. I've shown it quite a few times before because I've made a few versions of this. So this is a really lovely simple sweatshirt pattern. It has quite a lot of variations to it, but what makes it quite easy to sew is the fact that it has a drop shoulder to it. So you can see from the line drawings at the back there that the shoulder just comes down quite low, so there are no set-in sleeves. The sleeves are all set in on the flat, and yeah, it's a really quick, speedy sew. So you can make a normal kind of sweatshirt with cuffs and hembands and a neckband, or you can make the lovely tie version, which is on the front of the pattern there. I actually made the tie version as my first version, and even though it looks a little bit tricky, it's actually not that bad. And the front of the sweatshirt here is all cut as one piece, so you don't need to worry about cutting anything on the fold or anything like that. And if you're a bit nervous about putting neckbands in, there is the funnel neck version of this pattern here. So if you use the funnel neck version, you don't need to worry too much about getting your neckband to sit flat, because obviously with a funnel neck it kind of stands up high anyway, so no one's going to be worrying about how flat your neckband is if you are still a bit nervous about putting neckbands in. And I think that's a really lovely option to try with this pattern. As I say, I made the tie version as my first version. I've also made the kind of curved hem, and I've also made the funnel neck version as well. So I've made quite a few different versions of this, and I really find it a quick and easy and lovely sew. And obviously you can make it with a really stable jersey as well, so you wouldn't need to worry too much about stretching or anything like that. So you can use, say, a sweatshirt fabric or a French terry again, or even a Ponte Roma. I've made my most recent version actually in a Ponte Roma fabric, and that turned out really nicely. So I highly recommend this pattern as a good beginner jersey sewing pattern as well. And fourth on my list, it couldn't not be in there, could it, is the Linden Sweatshirt by Grey Line Studio, and I absolutely love this pattern. It did take me a while to give it a try, but I did wonder why I hadn't tried this earlier on in my journey sewing with knit and jersey fabrics, because it really is a simple sew. And I think the fact that it has these really lovely raglan sleeves just makes it that little bit easier, because you're sewing everything in kind of on the straight. You're not having to put a curved armhole in your sweatshirt. It just really is a kind of super quick, easy sew, and I find the neckband of this, it always goes in really nicely, and I think it's because it's got quite a nice wide neckline to it, which kind of pulls the neckband down a little bit, which makes it kind of lay flatter. I don't know if that's just me, but I always find that the neckband for this goes in really quickly. Obviously, since it's a sweatshirt, you can just use a really stable knit fabric, like a sweatshirting fabric. You could use a Ponte again, you could use a French terry. I know some people have actually made this from cotton jerseys as well, so you can even have it as a sort of a t-shirt version as well if you preferred that. So the Linden Sweatshirt is a really good beginner jersey sewing pattern too. Lastly, a really lovely t-shirt pattern that I came across quite early on into my journey sewing with knit fabrics is the Kirsten Kimono Tee by Maria Denmark Sewing. And I'll just pop a picture in of the pattern image so that you can see the shape of the t-shirt. And this really is a really lovely quick sewing pattern to sew if you're new to jersey. So it has no sleeves to set in. The sleeves are just slightly grown on here, so you get a little bit of a cap sleeve, but you don't have anything to set in. You literally just turn under a small hem around the sleeve there, and you don't even have to put in a neckband if you don't want to. You could just turn under the neckline and twin needle it or top stitch. But there is also the option in the pattern to bind the neckband as well if you prefer. And I actually did bind my version of the t-shirt when I made it, and it wasn't too difficult to do at all. So I really love this pattern. It really is one that you can whip up in an hour, because there's just a front and a back. You don't even need, as I say, you don't even need that neckband piece if you don't want to. So it's something that is a really good stash busting project as well, because it takes such a small amount of fabric. You really could be kind of knocking these out really quickly for summer, and since there's nothing to add, only a front and back piece, it's a really quick and easy sew if you're a beginner with jersey. Because it is a t-shirt, you may need to use a more kind of stretchy fabric like a cotton jersey or a viscose jersey or something like that, but as long as you pin everything really well and take your time sewing, then you shouldn't have any problems with this t-shirt at all. I absolutely love it, and I have lots more planned for this summer because I really like that kind of slash neck style neckline. So yeah, I really like this style of pattern. So I think that's it for this video, just a really quick look at 5 of my top beginner knit patterns and 5 of the patterns that kind of introduced me to knits in my own sewing journey, and a few things that I picked up along the way. So I hope it will be helpful. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to click the notification bell. Hopefully I'll be back next week with my makes video for March. Quite a few things to talk about in there, so I'm looking forward to filming that. Don't forget to tell me in the comments below what your favourite jersey sewing patterns are and what you found easiest as a beginner sewing with knit and jersey fabrics. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!